So there's this fundamental disconnect that pops up a lot of times when I'm talking to people about living in alignment with their intuition or their deeper voice or whatever, their internal guidance system. And I think what's going on there is a difference in belief regarding the core of a human being, right? The person who is worried about using the terminology of follow your intuition or follow your heart or do what makes you happy believes that the deepest part of a human being is bad. And they're worried that that guidance will have a person traveling down a bad path. And for the person who deeply believes in that guidance, right? They think that the deepest core part of a human being is good. And I think the way to sort of examine that, right, the deepest core part of a human being, right, what drives us, what motivates us, is to look at those actions that we take that are quote unquote bad or less than optimal, or to use religious terminology, sinful, to look at those actions and then ask ourselves, why do I do that? Right? Like at its core, why am I doing these things? Right? And if we do that and we dive deep enough, we see that at the core, we are looking for love and affirmation and connection and safety and security, right? And those things, those desires in and of themselves are not bad things, right? What ends up being bad, so to speak, is the way in which we pursue those things, right? But as a human being dives deeply into that which lights his or her fire, or follows his heart, or follows his or her intuition, the human is diving deeper and deeper toward those core desires, and is engaging in a process that will show him or her the lack of ability of those weird ways, those less than optimal ways of pursuing those deepest desires, the lack of their ability to truly fulfill those desires, right? And so the idea here is that we start to recognize and realize that our deepest desires are not bad, right? The idea of following one's heart, that's not bad advice. It's not advice that's going to lead a person down a horrible path. It's advice that will actually set them free from a lot of the less than optimal actions they're taking, right? Those less than optimal actions are not a result of that internal guidance system, that true self or intuition. Those are the result of false narratives and false beliefs and societal expectations and fear, right? For example, right, if at my core I want security and safety, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to go rob a bank to make that happen. Obviously, robbing a bank is a less than optimal way for the health of humanity as a whole and myself for me to go about obtaining safety and security. And honestly, even if I'm successful in it and have all of that money, I think I'm going to find that my deeper desire for safety and security is still there, right? So beginning to recognize that and understand that, hey, even though I'm um, at my core, I desire good things that can work out in really less than optimal ways, right? And fear can shape the way that I pursue those things, or societal expectations, right? Another um, less maybe extreme example is, if I'm looking for love and connection and affirmation on my deepest levels, and to do that, I decide to go on social media and take, scandalous pictures of myself, looking for likes and cheap comments and or whatever it might be, right, to help build my self-esteem. Again, I'm going to find out pretty quickly that that's empty, right? That's not going to actually solve that problem, and I'm going to be driven deeper into those desires, deeper into that true self, that true voice, And the more that I can sort of set aside those false narratives, those sort of false beliefs and the fear and societal expectations, which is all wrapped up into what we call the ego, right? That is our ego that is guiding our actions. Ego guides those suboptimal actions. The true self does not. If we'll pay attention to the true self and our intuition, we'll see that that guides us toward more optimal action, right? More healthy interaction, more whole interaction for us and others, right? Our true self is never going to tell us to rob a bank. Our ego and those false narratives and so on and so forth will tell us to do those things, right? And so, again, the difference between the person who says, follow your intuition, follow your heart, and they're all about it, and the person who says, whoa, 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 don't do that, right? That's a really dangerous path, is a fundamental difference in understanding of the human being at our core level as either bad or good, right? And to change that, we have to observe our actions and dive deep into our motivations behind those actions so that we can start to see, oh, my core desires aren't bad. It's the way in which I go about trying to obtain those desires that is bad. And so then we optimize by tuning into our intuition, those core desires, those deeper desires, and listening to how we can have those desires truly fulfilled, as opposed to trying to fulfill them through the cheap directives and shallow thrills of the ego, right? Of those false narratives, false beliefs, and gosh, what was the other word that I used? I don't know. Oh, fear, right? So, just some thoughts.